Good morning, Facebook. If you're watching and tuning in for the first time or the 100th time, let me know, how are you doing today? Smash the share button on this, hit the like, hit a react. Let me know, where are you watching from? Today, we're going to be talking to Dr. Aaron Chapa with Living Well Clinical Nutrition Center right here in beautiful League City, Texas. I want to hear from you about your goals. Last week we ended the show talking about goals, whether that has to do with nutrition, health, physical, any kind of goal, personal goals. I made a list of some of my goals. I know Chapa has a list of probably 300 goals or something like that for short-term, long-term, and all that. But Dr. Chapa, before we kick it on the FM, how are you doing today?
I'm doing fantastic, my brother. Just ready to rock and roll. Excited about another day to, work with all you wonderful folks, and looking forward to you guys being a part of a great show and just a great opportunity to just bond together. And it's amazing, the power of the lens, the power of technology allowing people to communicate still a message of hope and a message of wisdom to the masses from a godly perspective through technology is still such a blessing. I mean, especially in the times that we live in.
Speaking of technology, if you're watching on Facebook or YouTube, or you're able to see what we're looking at right now, you'll notice the new graphic on the bottom. It's a lower third where you can access all of these podcasts, all of these audio copies from anywhere. You just need to have access to Apple Music, Spotify or Apple Podcasts, and that's something great. You can't always watch something on YouTube or have video. Sometimes just the audio will be able to play, but you can go back. All of these are archived, and you can listen to every single one for over a year of Dr. Chapa being on, where you can learn about all these different topics. So that's a resource that's available at your fingertips due to technology.
And I think that it's one of the coolest things is that we just have I feel like, a lot of the shows that we put together, they're not necessarily always real concise, pointed topics, but it's just because so much of the health game is interwoven together. And I think that, it's really hard to stay on just your thyroid whenever the liver impacts your thyroid, or your glandular axis is more than just your thyroid. And, it's fun to talk about health and recognize that we are a whole being, and there is no way to really isolate, one particular part. And we can, and we do. We typically reserve those to our monthly seminars. Like this past month, we did one on stress, and we were going to do one next month on traveling and how to travel on a healthy diet, but kind of not relevant, right? So we're going to change our model a little bit and talk to a different topic. And it's unfortunately it's still in the same vein of stress and uncertainty, and how to navigate change, and because change is absolutely coming regardless of any pandemic or not. And we have to remember that it's how we handle the changes of life that dictate whether or not we move forward positively or negatively.
All right, so we're going to kick it on the FM right now. Here we go. Good morning. This is KHEA Radio 99.5 FM. It's 9:08 on a Tuesday morning. I have Dr. Aaron Chapa with Living Well Clinical Nutrition Center here in studio. My name is Gardy. This is Kickstart. Dr. Chapa, what's up? How are you doing today?
Man, if I was any better, I'd be twins, my man. I'm so glad to be here. I love coming into the radio. Love being a part of the technological world and reaching as many people as possible. So, good morning to everybody.
All right, it is a good morning. Last week we started and had an awesome show. We were talking about, a topic for the month, and this month is coming to a close. And here lately, these shows, we've been talking about everything. COVID-19, sometimes the coronavirus, sometimes I was just think of all the different names for it, right? But also other things, right?
Hey, somebody told me yesterday that was awesome. They said, "Yeah, man, I think I've got the COVID-13," and I'm like, I'm like thinking to myself, COVID-13, and I'm thinking, I don't know what she means. I'm like, do you mean like the COVID-19? She goes, no, man, the 13 pounds I put on from COVID.
Yeah, for real.
And I'm like, oh, dang, that's awesome. Because the reality is people are still forgetting this is not a famine, right? This isn't our shipping lines are down and we're not getting food and we need to be stocked up on rice and beans. This is this is a situation where lockdown is being enforced upon us, and we still have the ability to shop at grocery stores. And so because we can shop at grocery stores, and people went out immediately and bought emergency foods, carbohydrates excessively. And carbohydrates in and of themselves will cause you to gain weight. They slow down bowel motility. That causes your body to hold on to more trash. Your liver then can't process it. And then your metabolism slows down again. Your thyroid then can't keep up with the workload. Your liver can't keep up with the workload. And then your system starts to store body fat. Then we get into what I call the refined sugars. The refined sugars coming in all these packaged processed foods. And then we get into additives and alcohol, and these things are driving the body into decline very rapidly. And the processed food goes into what we call frankenfoods, make-believe food. And if you eat make-believe food, the best you'll ever have is make-believe health. So we've got to help people realize that this is not a famine. So if you've got COVID-13, that means the 13 pounds that you've gained over the last 8 weeks.
I'm going to say that's pretty good. If it's only 13 pounds, I feel like I've put on a lot more than that during this time of quarantine, social distancing, the kids being home, just trying to grab whatever I can out of the pantry to give them food, and then I'm just eating their leftovers. We talked about that before.
I'm proud of myself. I'm actually down 6 pounds.
Really?
I feel strong. I've been exercising and feel really good. And but it's interesting. It's a lot. It's work, right? I mean, like to live like a healthy lifestyle at any juncture of time is challenging. But to do it during a pandemic is a really interesting place to be, because I find that if I can do it through this, I believe that we sell ourselves short on what we can and we can't do. But then that goes back to, Zig Ziglar and Jim Rohn and all these great motivational speakers that say, if you think you can or if you think you can't, you right. And so you got to make sure that your thinking is on point. Napoleon Hill, Think and Grow Rich, David Schwartz, The Magic of Thinking Big. I'm just amazed at the number of books that that talk about the power of thinking or dreaming bigger than we ever thought we could. And thinking is a skill. It's a learned mental gymnastics exercise that is absolutely imperative to your well-being as a human, as your well-being as a mother, as a father, as a lover, as a friend, as an employee or an employer or an innovator or an implementer. Wherever you fit in the mold, your thinking determines your paycheck. Your thinking determines your motivation, your attitude, whether or not you enjoy the process for which you are moving your days forward. If you get joy out of your day, I mean, how many people hate what they do and have done it for the last 25 years?
Probably a lot of people, yeah.
A lot of people. And, I mean, I hear the story all the time. And I remember Mark Victor Hansen saying, man, I wouldn't want to do 5 minutes of something I wouldn't want to do, much less 5 years, 10 years, 20 years down the run. And, I mean, find something that you love, find something that you enjoy, and move yourself forward towards something that you get value out of. Because, some people say, oh, man, I got 25 years of experience. Oh, okay. Well, do you have 25 years experience? Well, maybe you have 1 year experience repeated over 25 years doing the same old thing. And if you do the same old thing and you're not really happy doing it in year 1, you're probably not going to be happy doing it in year 25 either. And so we got to help you think bigger and think better than you were thinking before. And I always find that when your thinking changes, your choices begin to change and open up. And then your results begin to change and open up for the better. And so, a part of all of my desire for all the people that hear my voice and the people that come and see us is we want to change your thinking, because the thinking that you have is probably to some degree a a part of why you have the results that you have. And if you're willing to think a little different, if you're willing to be open-minded to a new idea, all of a sudden you start getting revelation on how to find solutions whenever maybe you didn't see a solution prior. And it always comes down to your want to. I call it a willing and able graph. If you're willing and able, you're always positively moving forward, and life will work out well for you. But if you're not willing, but you're able, you're frustrated, you're frustrating, and everything that you do just doesn't seem to work out. It's a struggle. If you're unwilling and unable, you're in what we call the pit of despair, demise. But if you're willing and not able, you can be taught. So we have to stay in two places. We have to stay willing and able, or recognize willing and unable that we just need new skills. And so hopefully going through our list of shows that we've got and coming in and seeing us and letting us challenge your thinking that may have gotten you into the boat that you're in health-wise, we can change that thinking, give you better thinking, a different light on the of the thinking that you have, which will help drive better choices to be made in order to give you better results. And I think ultimately everything is about results. If you can start seeing change, I mean, if I've been able to lose 6 pounds while I've been inside this state of restriction, I think that anybody can, because I don't know that I didn't think I really had 6 pounds, but I definitely, have water weight holding on and nature's solution to pollution's dilution. So if my body's holding on to water, it's holding on to toxins too. So my body's protecting me, and so the more I can get my body to release those toxins, the better I can get the body to let go of the excess.
My wife commented on the Facebook stream and said, we've been eating nothing but sugar. So I can't believe she called me out like that. And I wanted to tell you so you heard it from me before you go back and watch the stream and just are disappointed. And
realize, man, I just thought Gardy was on my side. No, I'm just kidding. No.
I am on your side. But my kids are there too. And man, it is so easy to reach for the prepackaged food and the snacks and everything else. But it's hard. And I've had conversations with my wife lately. I was like, I got to get on some kind of plan. I got to get on some kind of eating plan, whether that's prepping food. And she doesn't want to hear it. I don't know if she's still watching or listening right now.
Oh no,
she got mad at me. She was just like, it's like it almost caused a disturbance in the household. And maybe I picked the wrong time because it was trying to get everybody to go to bed. And I was just like, hey, whispering, the baby's asleep, the kids are. I was like, hey, I got to do something. Like I feel like
you feel your joints starting to kind of stiffen up.
Things aren't good.
Right.
Things are not good. I don't feel good. And it almost caused an issue. I'll say that. So she just said, do whatever you want. And I was like, that doesn't mean do whatever I want. It means don't do whatever I want. What do I do?
I think it's one of these things that I'm kind of doing that same thing too. I don't eat the same food as my family. My family doesn't understand. I eat with them. Like if we are, paths cross at mealtime. But I mean, my diet is very, particular. I mean, I'm eating pretty much the same stuff every day. Turkey, fish, a little bit of spinach and asparagus and green beans and it's eggs but it's there's zero sugar and coming into my diet right now, and I'm even tinkering. I'm not completely limiting, but I'm tinkering even with like the sodium content that I was getting in, because a lot of the spices that I was gravitating towards is high sodium, and high sodium draws in water. So I'm tinkering with this water retention idea, even in my chemistry, and just seeing what and how my body responds, and it's interesting. It's fascinating. You've got to look at your body like a chemistry project, and her body's a chemistry project right now. She's breastfeeding, and so how does that happen? What amazing thing that at a particular time in life, these little ducts turn on and they produce this substance that is nourishing to another life form, and then that life form then grows to a point where it doesn't need that sustenance anymore, and then it dries up. I mean, and how amazing is God to create something that knows when to turn on and knows when to turn off, and really, for the most part, we don't have to go in and flip the switch. It automatically kicks on based on certain hormonal patterns in our body. And I think the healthier the body is, the more easily it turns on these different systems that we need at certain times, whether it's your immune system. One of my biggest concerns for people that are worried about COVID-19 is that we've isolated ourselves so much to quote unquote flatten the curve, but only to get back together at some point, and people not realize that that's what causes your flus and your colds and things like that, is you've isolated yourself from germs, and then panicked about the germs. You can't hide from germs, and when you get back together, the germs then start doing what they do. They start inoculating, and it's good. There is a good level of inoculation that needs to happen for your innate immune system, your interferon and adaptive immune system to kick in appropriately, so that your body does what it's supposed to do in developing antibodies or developing antigens in order to deal with pollens or molds or viruses or bacterium. And so I'm still trying to help people understand that really hiding from this is the worst thing you could do, and in supporting your immune system at every angle possible through a good diet, not the carbs, refined sugar, additives, alcohol, and processed food diet. That's a bad diet, or what we call the SAD diet. That's the SAD diet. SAD is Standard American Diet, which is all filled full of the processed junk, make-believe frankenfoods that drive us towards one thing and one thing only. What is that?
That would be not health.
Make-believe health.
Make-believe health.
And so I recognize too, I have a lot of patients too coming in right now that they're dealing with just this isolation problem. I mean, wow, what a stressor, that people are dealing with. They feel completely disassociated, disconnected from their normal patterns and routines. And it makes me think of Dr. Spencer Johnson's book, Who Moved My Cheese? And we have to remember that change is inevitable, and the only thing that is absolutely positively going to happen is change at any given point in time. So people that don't like change, we want to help you change your thinking on that, because change is inevitable and change is coming, change is here, and who moved your cheese? And how are you going to deal with the change is going to determine the output and productivity level of your next 5 years. You know what I mean? So we want 10 years, 15 years, 20 years. And if you can get people okay and comfortable with the changes of life, guess what happens? Good results are to come. And so some of what we wanted to talk about today was goal setting, how important it is and where are people at. So I just went and grabbed my journal, and I have lost this journal I don't know how many times, because I only write certain things in this journal. This isn't a journal that I actually, rush to complete. I am almost finished with it, but I mean, I've had this journal since 2006.
Wow.
And so this particular journal, I have 8 journals that are my next big thing journals, and I meant to grab one to just show what it looks like. But this particular journal is only for special things, and I have all the blueprints of how I wanted to build my life. I built my life in 2016, and I could just simply state September, or I guess September 16th, 2006. I've embarked on a new journey toward more goals to improve my life and allow me to acquire true, I don't even know if I can read it all, true goals, which is to be a great husband, a great father, a great spiritual follower of Jesus Christ. I'm learning to write, book reviews and reading a book on time management, and learn that I need to be my own personal consultant of time so I can better attain that I can better attain the goals that I set in life. I have also found and watched a movie about how to develop my thinking on goal setting. I now know if I don't expect to have all that I dream about, I don't take steps to get any closer to those dreams. And then I have even pictures of my office, and I find that the outside view, the inside view, and what's inside. I got laughter, I got hope, I've got healing, I've got motivation, I've got Christ, I've got diet talks, I've got people rushing in from the north, the south, the east, and the west, and I have the inside view, the things laid out the way they were once. This is an old office, 2006 practice, and then, but I have even more blueprints in this thing that show every step how I was going to break down the steps. So, like, ultimately, there is there you can show that one. There's a.
Does that say?
Let me make sure. Yeah, you saw the one word. There you go.
I'm gonna move it. You can show it whatever you want to.
And but anyway, there we go. We'll just cover that.
Cross that one out. Some goals should just be personal.
But this is my personal journal, right?
Right.
So there's things in this journal that are absolutely, what I'm building my house, right? I'm building my life, and with God's help, and Christ is the center. That's what you see at the top of the house, this is one of these. My dream is to have a clinic where my wife and I can both be a part of each other's lives. I didn't want a place where she's going her way and I'm going mine, and we are like ships in the night, and a place that welcomes God's Spirit, a place of laughter, a place of healing and teaching on life's many matters. And isn't that relevant? Mm-hmm. Teaching life's many matters. What are we doing this morning? We're talking about life's many matters. This isn't necessarily about health per se, but it's definitely about we got to change our thinking so we can change our life. And we've got some many matters that have come up lately that we've got to address and deal with. The uncertainties, a place that will allow for prosperity in our spirit, in our physical, and our emotional, and our financial lives. I mean, this is, we're building this stuff out, specific goals to have our own wellness clinic. First one, seek scriptures daily. And I even went back and rewrote this a few years, wrote parentheses, do more of this, because we can easily get distracted. Pray daily, have peace and following God's plan for my life and not rushing it. Find an office space, so I had a simple goal, right? Make a checklist of office equipment that I need. Make a checklist of front office needs. Figure out what to start with. Office attire, marketing plan, and then I even wrote, we have our it should be in purple, but it's not. We have our own office, January 24th, 2007. That was our first, when we had our own kind of
coming
space.
To pass. Yeah.
And we were, and this is the way things started unraveling. Then goals lead to steps lead to task, and then I have all this stuff broken down, and then that's where you start seeing these pictures start coming to play, where we're creating the vision on paper. And the Bible says that people perish for a lack of vision, right? And so we've got to help people realize that the Bible is ever relevant in any state that we're in. And it talks about all the different issues that are going to be in our grasp, in our reach, in our foresight, in our hindsight. We're going to have experienced, tough times. And so here's a few little just as we're talking through starting out these goals, ideas, to have patience. This is first and foremost. So you have to recognize, and I really do truly believe, I'm reading another book right now by Steve Lauper, I think. Lauper is the last name, but it's called Sacred Pace. And he says that you always have to, Terry Lauper, I'm sorry, but it's called Sacred Space, or Sacred Pace. And he says that whenever you're doing anything in business or in life, you want to first trust your friend Jesus. That's the first step one. Now understand that this guy he's a local Houstonian. He has a company here, and he has no sales goals, no production goals, doesn't work more than 40 hours a week, pays his employees really well, and serves his community greatly because he built it the way God had him build it. And he says, first, you trust your friend Jesus. Notice he didn't just say trust Jesus, right? He says, I trust my friend Jesus. And that means he's walking with his friend. He's talking with his friend. He's consulting with his friend. He's hanging out with his friend on the regular, right? And oftentimes, that's why, and when you heard in mine back in 2006, that I need to, daily read the Word of God, and daily pray and stay in that attitude of faith. And I think that's one of the things that I would say resonates with me about this. And then gather the facts. So then you start analyzing, where are you going to move forward on the matter. And then we look at, watch for circumstances. Like, are you picking a profession that is relevant? Is it something that is going to withstand the test of time? Is it a fad, or is it something that's legitimately a need that you see people needing in all circumstances? And I'm very thankful. I remember talking to a gentleman one time and asked, how do I pick a career path? And he said, well, you pick something that you think in good times and bad times that will still be relevant. And I look back and I'm like, well, that really wasn't helpful at the time, because how do you have that kind of foresight? But I think when you walk with your friend Jesus and you gather facts and you start watching for circumstantial understanding, wisdom, that's whenever you can get neutral with Christ and just be patient in the Lord. And here it comes. So Proverbs 19:11, a man's wisdom gives him patience. It is to his glory to overlook an offense. Proverbs 19:8, he who gets wisdom loves his own soul. Yes, please. I love my own soul. I want some wisdom. He who cherishes understanding prospers. Proverbs 19:21, many are the plans of a man's heart, but it is the Lord's purpose that prevails.
Do you think it's more, the quick question, do you think it's more important to pursue something that is going to be relevant during all times, or something that you have a passion that burns, that's like on fire for at all times? Ideally, they line up.
Well, sometimes. I've heard people tell that exact story like this. I can't remember the exact book I got it out of, but it basically said to the point that, one person was told, follow your passions, follow your passions, follow your passions. And the other, person was told to find a job that you'll always have, like find something that's you'll always be employed. So one person follows their passion, and their passion was the story of the the poor artist, the starving artist, I think as they call it. Starving artist syndrome is like they're pursuing their art, whether it's music, whether it's true blue pen to paper art or some sort of fancy art, and they just barely make their ends meet. But they're relatively happy, but they're also but they never really excel, and they not ever. They're always stressed out about the money because their passion doesn't really support their financial living. They got family now, they got this, and things have changed, and so their passion kind of got trumped a little bit because they have dependents that need stuff, and kids are expensive, and marriage is expensive, and houses are expensive, and cars and maintenance are expensive and stuff, and then the other person was given the advice, find a job that you'll always have, and so she became a nurse. You'll never go out of business in the healthcare industry, but yet her feet hurt. Her back was always in pain because she was always moving, bodies that were really heavy. But by golly, she had a job for 45 years, and she was thankful that she had that job for 45 years. So, I think it can go both ways. I think that I think you really have to go above and beyond just getting passionate about something and finding something relevant. You need to find something that is you're passionate about, relevant, and that you plan out. Like, what do you want? I think this is a critical question that you have to ask yourself. What do you want your life to look like after you've done built it? And recognize this is the scripture right here. Many are the plans of a man's heart, but it is the Lord's purpose that prevails. And that's, again, Proverbs 19:21, Proverbs 20:5. The purposes of a man's heart are deep waters, but a man of understanding draws them out. So, every one of us has a gifting, but a man or woman of understanding, of wisdom, knows how to draw that from the depths out into in a way that allows them to meet their spiritual needs, their family needs, their financial needs, their relational needs, their impact needs, their giving needs, and their ability to create change and leadership needs, and their ability to inspire others to, basically have a Timothy, like discipleship. Like, we have to all recognize that we are leading somebody, and you should be being led by somebody. And if you don't know who that is, you might be being led by the wrong somebody. And a lot of times you can find yourself on a path that you're not happy with. And that's because you follow the thinking of the media, for example, or from somebody that doesn't have your best interest at heart, or somebody that thinks they have your best interest at heart, but you haven't considered your path. And so what do you want your life to look like after you've done built it? That is a critical question that allows people to start taking their passions and taking their goals and orchestrating them in a way that aligns. Will that give me 5 years down the road? Will that give me 15 years down the road? What do I want my life to look like at the end of my life? I have in this journal, I won't read it because it's a little, there's some things in there that are private and personal to me. And but you'll find, if you ever got a hold of this journal, you would find that I'm a true student. I have never stopped learning. I've fallen in love with the idea of learning. God gave me this in 2003, for example. Passion, something no one can take from you, but something only you can develop. And so the Lord gives us the passion, but it's up to you to develop it. A man of wisdom, or that knows how to draw that out of the deep. And I think that that was, 2003. I literally woke up in the middle of the night, and he also told me that same night, and the Lord said, I'm not trying to fit in. I'm wanting to share truth with people, and my truth will set the captives free. And so we have to recognize that we have to get our thoughts, our words, our actions, our habits in line with God's character in order to maximize our most true destiny. And I think that we'll have the most exhilarating, adventurous ride ever in life when we work on these ideas, our thoughts, our words, our actions, our habits, and our character. And I think when we align those with our friend Jesus, and we gather the facts, we watch for circumstances, and then we sit back and put it neutral and say, all right, I've done all the things I can do in the natural, and I'm going to stay active and moving forward, trusting that God's going to open the door. A part of why I'm even I went to school to do the work that I do. I remember being terrified walking up to the school door and saying, oh, man, this is a doctorate school. Like, I don't know if I can do this. I mean, I felt like cinder blocks around my ankles, like walking to the door. And I was just going in for a meeting just to kind of like, hey, can I get a tour of the facility? Can I get some information about how to become an enrolled student? I was just gathering information. But the devil will try to captivate your mind and to lie to you and falsify your abilities and jeopardize your potential destiny, just through your own lack of confidence. And so I remember walking to the school door and feeling these cinder blocks on my feet, and every step got harder and harder. But as soon as I yanked that door open, it's like those cinder blocks just shattered, and I walked right through. And then I sat down for my meeting, and I had the 30-minute conversation turned into a 2-hour conversation, and I had the best time ever. And I just said, all right, Lord, I'm just going to walk this path. And what that means is I'm just going to go through the steps, and if you close the door, my prayer is that you'll make the transition so smooth I won't even realize I changed. And I think that is how you align those. You've got to look at your passions. You got to look at something that is relevant, and I think you need to look at something that builds the life that you want, not today, but after you've done built it.
Right now it's 9:39. This is KHEAradio.com, 99.5 FM. This is Kickstart. My name is Gardy. I have Dr. Aaron Chapa with Living Well Clinical Nutrition Center here in studio. He's in studio every Tuesday talking about health, nutrition. Right now we're talking about goals, setting goals, your passion, how do you reach them? How do you realistically make these come to pass? And right now is a very interesting time. I have a friend, his name's Jonathan, and he owns the Sanctuary Gym, Jonathan Jacque.
Oh, yeah. I've seen the Sanctuary Gym in Friendswood, I think, right?
Yeah, they're in Friendswood. Right now, gyms are not allowed to be open. They have a great facility. He's poured his heart and soul into it, and I just saw a post that he had made. In my opinion, if you could safely find a way to work out, and it's a lot of people's release. That's like I don't even know. It's called a sanctuary because it's a sanctuary for some people. I saw a post that he made, I think yesterday, and he was like, "Man, this is so, it stinks. It stinks." I'm trying to think of the right way to say this. He was just like, "Man, this just makes me," and obviously he was saying this, I'm sure tongue in cheek, but this just makes me want to. If I was just out of this business, like, why couldn't I just go like open a liquor store or something that brings like no value to anybody's life? And it just makes me want to do that because he's, poured like his heart and soul into it, knocked out these goals, just growing, and then just have it ripped out from under you. It makes, it's just like soul crushing.
I think that right now, like, the reality is I think in Texas, I think if we can trust the statistics, right? I think it's like 600 people have actually, died from COVID. But 1.4 million people are out of the job. So I mean, it's really weird, like, to think of stories like that. But again, it goes back to Spencer Johnson, like, who moved my cheese? Like, what? All right, what now are you going to do? And what a testament! The Sanctuary Gym, I think his whole premise is this is the Lord's house, and we're going to move weight and we're going to do this. And so, this is a time where, God will show up and shine out, and will either make the transition so smooth he doesn't realize it happened. But, to his point, like, alcohol really isn't the answer, guys. Sorry. As much as it might be seemingly fun, or it might be this or that, or it might be your release, or it might be your way to unwind. I find that, one of my all-time rules with alcohol with patients is, never more than twice a week and never back-to-back days. If you're going to do it. And but I've also come to the realization that if you should never ever drink because you're stressed, because if you do that, you'll find reasons to be stressed because you can get that coping mechanism.
Yeah.
And so maybe you have a beverage at a high moment at a party of sorts, and life is grand and great, and you're not stressed. Would be a better reason to not to wash away the pain. And so, but that's helping people kind of like move away from alcohol as their stress vehicle and start recognizing that, these people drink every day.
Yeah.
Multiple times a day, sometimes at 10 a.m. And that takes a toll on your body negatively. It is not a health vitamin. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's just how backwards it is. It's like, well, this is essential. This stays open, but
churches are closed.
Churches are closed.
And spiritual feeding is more important than any of this. The Bible says that we fight spiritual principalities and spiritual battles more abundantly real than the physical. And but we have our priorities messed up, and we as the body of believers have to wake up to that. We as the people that call ourselves American free, we have to wake up, and we have to start realizing that there is something fishy about all this. Like, why can we go to stores and step over each other, within proximity, less than 6 feet, and to grab our little chicken breast, and but yet we can't go to church service and praise Jesus, But I mean, and so we have to recognize that our cheese has been moved and change has happened, and the way you think today will determine your output and productivity tomorrow. And so I've got hundreds of goals written in my journal, and you'll see I've got goals here that are painted in purple because those are the ones that I've accomplished. And I haven't accomplished everything on this. Like, some of these are like I want to have a house in the Caribbean. Can
I come by?
Yeah, please, absolutely. I wouldn't have it any other way. But in the reality is that some of these I wrote back in 2007, 2006. So I mean, and a lot of these are just dangling carrots, right? These expanded the ability to do this. People that I talk to, they goes, "Oh, I can't. Oh, I can't set goals. Oh my gosh, it doesn't going to happen anyway." It's not about whether it happens. It's about the exercise, mentally expanding your thinking. Can you think up 100 goals? I want to fly an airplane. I've always wanted to fly an airplane. I want to speak 5 languages. My grandfather spoke, French, German, Italian, Spanish, and English. Like I like he learned it all through cassette tape. And I'm like, if he could learn 5 languages and I only know one, how did that get screwed up?
Yeah, through cassette and all the information we have at our fingertips.
Yeah,
now.
I mean, I'm thinking to myself, I could have gotten at least 3 languages, and so but I write that kind of stuff down because, those things push our mind to, and your mind doesn't forget, your subconscious doesn't forget. So there's another book called The Ant and the Elephant. And The Ant and the Elephant talks about the subconscious mind is an elephant. The conscious mind is an ant. And which one's more powerful? The elephant. Therefore, which one part of your brain is more powerful? Your subconscious mind. So if your thinking is small, then and your mind is a thought factory, according to David Schwartz in Power and Magic of Thinking Big, first chapter is about belief. And if you tell yourself if you say, I can't do that, your brain will give you all the reasons. Your brain is so obedient, it'll give you all the reasons to validate why you can't do that. That's why you have to eliminate words. Can't, couldn't, shouldn't, wouldn't, not, won't, try. You got to get rid of those words. Like, go one day, right on, and one of my goals is to avoid the words can't, shouldn't, wouldn't, couldn't, won't, ever, try, get rid of those words out of your vocabulary and go 24 hours and avoid those words. Like, notice I said, don't use those words. No, you got to get rid of that out of there. Avoid those words because you will be blown away how often you use negative, derogatory statements that your subconscious hears, and you're activating the elephant to just command charge. And the elephant's always more powerful than the ant, and it will trample your conscious thoughts. So you've got to retrain your subconscious mind to thrive. You got to train that mind. And so the exercise of writing out 100 goals is an exercise of your faith, of your creativity, and your ability just to dream bigger than you ever thought you could. It's such a valuable tool, and it doesn't matter. You have to be a little bit selfish here. You have to put things on there. I want to live like a wise king. Well, who do you think I'm referencing there? Solomon, right? Well, you know what happened just the other day? My son and I were reading the Proverbs, and I can't remember which proverb it was, but I remember him and I, the Bible says in James 1 that he who lacks wisdom, God will give generously to all without finding fault, does it not? And is the Word of God not infallible? Isn't the Word of God true? It's it's inspired by the word of the Lord, 2 Timothy 3:16, and so if we can count on it as promises from God, that we can hold God accountable to His promises, then I said, Lord, you said you would give generously to all without finding fault, wisdom. I said, Dash and I want a double portion of Solomon's wisdom. No one's lived like it before. I know it might say that no one might live like it after, but it doesn't mean that he wouldn't honor somebody that had the faith to ask. What's the worst thing he gives me? What if he gives me half of Solomon's wisdom? Yes, please. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Half kingship ain't bad. You know what I mean? And so I look at it like, why not? Why do we underestimate our own abilities? Why do we underestimate the power of God's hand in our lives? Why do we underestimate the victory that we have in Christ? And so that's why you write victory over in purple, because purple is a royal color. You write purple victory over all the goals that you've accomplished, and then then you do it again next year, and you do it again the next year. And it could be. I even have on here, I want to be a woodcrafter.
Why not?
It's so funny because I love the idea of making pocket watches and pens with a wood lathe and all that stuff. I loved it from shop class as a kid. But it may not ever come to pass. But what about, to be a great doctor, to know diets specific for people, to understand the chemistry of the body in such a way and to make it simple for thousands and thousands and thousands of people to understand and to apply to their lives, to love my family unconditionally, to have my education paid for. I sowed an education seed many years ago, thinking that God was just going to write me a check for my, doctorate program, a student loan bill, But you know what God did even better? I remember sowing that education seed, and God said, well, I've heard preachers talk about this, but you got to name your seed. You got to know what you put in the ground. So I named a seed. I called it my education seed, and I water that education seed periodically, and it's like a harvest farm. And, God has positioned me to be in some of the best, most amazing thinkers in the country that help evolve my own thinking. What better education, what better wisdom is that? To continually learn and to grow and to mature in the ways of God's directive. He's teaching me how to draw out the depths of the desires of my own heart and keep them in line with His heart. Praise be to the Lord. I think that's awesome. And so I think it's okay if some of these goals get repeated year after year. But man, this one was really cool. I want to have my own insurance company that will pay for alternative medicine. Because I'm sick and tired of people not being able to afford what I do. I think it should be available to everybody, and it makes me mad that it isn't. So I want to have my own insurance company, and that allows that. This is February 18th, 2007. I mean, so it's not like this is new ideas. I want to think bigger, and bigger every year that I'm on this planet. So I mean, it's amazing the things that I've put down in this journal that have allowed me to do the exercise.
Dr. Chapa, I got a question for you and a question for the people that are watching on social media, or if you're listening in your car or going back and listening to this on Apple Podcasts or Spotify. If you're hearing my voice, right, I got a question for you. What are some short-term goals that you have during this season of the COVID-19, of the coronavirus? What are some short-term goals that have, and maybe you haven't written these down or you've thought about it, it's like, hey, I'm trying to survive today, and that's a goal. I'm trying to get through this homeschool season. I'm trying to do this. What are some short-term goals for right now that you didn't have before we were quarantined and before there was, some kind of lockdown? What are some goals that you have, Dr. Chapa?
So number one is to to remain and to draw closer unto Christ, my friend Jesus. Number two is to do whatever I can do to appreciate change is upon me and not fight it and resist it and to wrestle with it, but just to roll with it and to and to get back up again. To expect June 1st to be day one new business. Even though I have been fortunate in not having to close my doors, a lot of my friends have chosen to close their doors. To me, I think, why? More than ever, we need to serve our people. This is what we're here for. It's what we've been, preparing for, is that we can handle bugs and we can handle challenges, and we want people to recognize that. I want to, take this time to that people have had as a, government vacation. How many books can I read? I've got 15 books that I'm plowing through right now, and you're like, how can you do that? I don't know.
All at the same time?
All at the same time. They're in my car, and I literally just grab one and keep reading, grab one and keep reading. The other night, Dash and I read, 2 books, and they weren't big books. I mean, they were like 25, 30 pages, but they were on different, aspects of God's victory in our life, and those were some spiritual books. This is a thinking book. I've got some classical books that some friends of mine put together for me because I want to rebuild my classical education thinking cap, because I don't feel like I got a good classical education thinking cap. And these books help me to build a new place of understanding that I've never had before. So how many books can I read between now and my June 1st start date? And so even though I'm still alive and in practice and working, I'm literally reinvesting in my axe, sharpening my axe. Abraham Lincoln said if he was in an axe chopping contest, he would spend 95% of the time sharpening the axe and 5% of the time cutting the tree down. And
It's preparation, that's education, it's making sure you know how you're going to go about it.
That's absolutely right. So I think absolutely recognizing that we're in a very massive vortex of change is step one. And then reaching to the people from our past that have written good material that can help, to read a proverb a day. So, today's the 28th, so we need to read the 28th proverb and go through, and what nugget does God give you? Lord, give me wisdom to see, give me wisdom to hear what you're trying to tell me, because some of us see better, some of us hear better, and so just ask for both. Like when I'm on the show and I'll rewatch my shows, I notice I wiggle a lot, and people go, oh, that's a disease. You got, shaky baby, shaky whatever I got syndrome. And I'm like, well, maybe, or I might just be, I'm just a little boy inside and I'm just wiggly, and I get excited and passionate, and I have to stay focused. My mouth's got to stay focused in front of this microphone, so everything else wants to shake and burst at the seams because I'm so fired up, and I want to teach people how to live better, be better, and stay better mentally, emotionally, physically, spiritually, in every aspect of their life. And I think that you are a product of the books you read, the CDs you listen to, the sermons you hear, the people you associate with. And if you're hanging around, dogs, all you're going to get is fleas. You ever heard that saying? Yeah. And so make sure that you pick and choose your relational circles wisely. Be around people that push you. Be around people that hold you accountable. Be around people that aren't afraid to tell you the truth. And if they don't receive the truth, then you know where they kind of are in the realm of like true friendship. But also recognize in your own state, don't let that go to your head and think that you can just, be the sandpaper for everybody and recognize that you've got your own issues. Trust me, you do. Look in the mirror. And so as you go through this journey and you start realizing that we're all in this together, not one of us is ahead of the other, not one of us is better than the other. We are all in this together and fighting the good fight. And if we, and ultimately, I think that what we need to do practically is we need to wake up to the ideas that like there's a lot of things that we would call freedoms that we have lost over the last 8 weeks and potentially, for another 6 weeks. And we have to start re-educating ourselves. Don't take in the same media that you've been taking in. Like, reach for other venues. Get a full-rounded perspective. I love what Jim Rohn says, and not the sports commentator, the one that's passed on. And he says that you need to know both sides of the ledger. He goes, you need to know the power of Jesus Christ and all the things that the Bible talks about, good and bad. Because what side of the ledger do you want to be on, Gardy?
I want to be on the right side, the one that comes out victorious.
That's right. and there's a lot of stories in the Bible where it's not, isn't it?
Right.
And so, well, what about Gandhi? What about Hitler? We gotta know the good sides and the bad sides of all these different levels of thinking, because it allows you to have a more robust, culturalized approach to how you see life. You're not jaded one way or the other. You're able to appreciate people's views, even though if you don't agree with them. Therefore, you all instantly become a better debater because your emotional hot buttons don't get pushed whenever you're in an argument with somebody. And we all need work on that, right? I mean,
yeah. You were talking about, hey, looking at different forms of media, getting your information from different sources. One thing I've seen people do, and one thing I've done a little bit myself, is just check on people and friends and family that you have on other sides of the country, even if they're in another country. Like, I have a friend in India, and he messaged me 2 days ago. Hey, how is your family doing? I'm like, hey, we're doing okay. How is it going over there? Just asking questions like, hey, what's reality over there?
Yeah, what'd he say?
Yeah, he said, hey, everything's on lockdown. We don't have any work. He's actually a manufacturer for a lot of my Del Tigre stuff, which that's one of my goals. Del Tigre is a brand that I have, me and my wife, and he's the manufacturer for a lot of the stuff that we've done. And he's like, I've had no work. I've had to, my employees, I can't do anything, but we're trying to stay safe, and pretty much all of my savings I had to use to pay them and some other stuff. So I was like, okay, well, the health wise, how's it going? He said, hey, it's kind of, the numbers are going down. I have a friend in Malaysia, asked him the same thing. He'll tune in and watch KHEA from there. And I asked him, how's it going? And hey, things are going good, just kind of locked down. But it's just interesting. And I know my friend Manish with, Little Bella Mia, I've seen he's posted a lot of of things on social media from. Are you friends with Manish on social media?
Mm-mm.
Okay, I like and I look forward to his posts. And he was watching a bit ago. I'm not sure if he's still on, but he's like, hey, I'm not political, but he'll poke at both sides and ask people's perspectives and just kind of. But people get passionate over this stuff. But it's important to look at it from
Both
a
sides.
different view, a different lens, and see, hey, what's going on? He's a business owner, but he also, he cares about people. He's passionate. He gives back all the time. So, man, but just like take a step back and look through it from a different perspective, or ask somebody who specifically has a different view from you, not for the sake of argument. Why do you feel that way? Why? And then just listen. Okay, that makes sense when I look at it that way from your view.
And it's amazing the fact that just shows the uniqueness of every one of us, that we all have a unique perspective on life. And if we all put our heads together, we will come out of this, vibrant. But if we remain divided, if we remain jaded towards our own path, well, I think we're going to see more and more levels of confusion and frustration. And I think that at some level, that's why we're in the boat we're in the first place.
Yeah.
I mean the reality is the bug is not as much of an issue as all the other things that have come along with it.
Here's some other goals that people have put. Robin, she and her husband, they own Axe Masters in League City, which they have not been able to be open. Which is that stinks. But they've been getting a lot of stuff done.
In the corner.
That's it right there. Yeah, they've been getting a lot of stuff done at home, and they're excellent craftspeople. So their home looks awesome. They started the inside of the outside.
It's so funny.
I
just saw somebody just sent me a meme that says, day 56 of quarantine, I just built myself a Doberman and it's a wiener dog on stilts.
You get very creative. But she put, hey, I joined Masterclass and I've taken a lot of the classes on there, which that's really cool. I'll see some of those videos.
Yeah.
And it's like they take the people at the top of the professions and they just kind of pour into you. That's a great idea. Melissa said one of her goals is to get in better shape. And I have a lot of time to work out, listen to more sermons and podcasts to grow mentally and spiritually. That's great too. You can go listen to Dr. Chapa's episodes of KHEA Radio on here on Kickstart. If you just search Just Live Well from Spotify or Apple Podcasts, and you can go do that right now and listen to everything. Melissa said, here's another goal, to go from 3 months of an emergency fund to 1 year. I feel like that's an awesome goal.
Yeah, especially during a downtime. What a great, powerful is to find yourself in a position where you know what, I can find a way to be creative in this place and build my net worth and not, deplete it.
And build up a health emergency fund. That's something you've been talking about for years. You have like a health bank, and sometimes these little things come on you and it'll deplete it a little bit, but you have to have some stored up in the emergency funds, which is a really cool way to look at it.
And I think that, so like this book, The Magic of Thinking Big, I've read this 1, 2, 3, 4. I'm on my 5th time that I've read this book. And I actually date it in the front of the book cover here. And I love what, there's the first chapter, by the way, is just the power of belief, and how it talks about how your mind is a thought factory and how powerful your thinking is, and how much thinking drives everything from your value and that you put forth spiritually, emotionally, family, all the different aspects of life, to your financial pocketbook, to your just ability to innovate ways to inspire people around you to do great and wonderful things. But he says, for David the third, his son, our 6-year-old son David felt mighty big when he graduated from kindergarten, and I asked him what he plans to be when he finishes growing up. David looked at me intently for a moment, and then he answered, "Dad, I want to be a professor." His dad said, "A professor? A professor of what?" I asked. "Well, Dad," he replied, "I think I want to be a professor of happiness." A professor of happiness, huh? That's a pretty wonderful ambition, don't you think? To David, then a fine boy with a grand goal, and to his mother, this book is dedicated. And it is everything going down this list, believing in yourself that you can concede, that you will succeed at whatever you put your hands to cure yourself of my favorite, excusitis, the failure disease, to build confidence and destroy fear, how to think big, how to think and dream creatively. You are what you think you are. Manage your environment, always moving forward first class. Make your attitudes your allies. Think right toward people. get action habits, how to turn defeat into victory, use goals to help you grow, and how to think like a leader. And so this book is just loaded with nuggets. It doesn't matter where you turn in this book. I just opened up randomly to page 36, which is Cure Yourself of Excuse-itis, the failure disease. Knowledge is power when you use it constructively. And so I think that you can just find these little nuggets that will help you in every aspect of your life. And this is another, fantastic book that we've beat up pretty badly. And this is how, we find books that resonate with us. And even though there's 1,000 books on the topic, we find the ones that have the deepest roots, the deepest pillars that seem to make the biggest impact and that have withstand the test of time. And so obviously my number one book that I read often and daily is the Bible. And then I start sprinkling these other books in. And I just recognize that, at different juncture of time, we've got to have a very robust, broad cast of a net of good information coming in so that we can recognize counterfeit information when it tries to sneak in.
Dr. Chapa, thank you for coming and hanging out today.
Absolutely, my brother. I'm glad to do it. Living Well Clinical Nutrition Center loves all you guys. We're so fired up and glad to be a part of your world in any way, shape, and form that you'll let us. And, either you can contact us at 281-554-8600, or you can visit us at our website, justlivewell.com. We love it if you'd share our videos, if you would, put it with your friends, family, loved ones, and let people know that there is a message of hope. There is a message of health and wellness that we can attain through challenging times. And we are excited to be a voice of reason and a voice of rationality for people going through this time. So we pray all you guys to be blessed, and we'll see you next week.
This is KHEA Radio 99.5 FM.